The rain came down in sheets, each drop striking the cracked panes of the observatory's dome like thrown gravel. Water leaked through the fractures in steady silver threads, pooling on the concrete floor and running toward the drains that had clogged years ago. The air smelled of rust, ozone, and old paper. Elias Thorne stood beneath the ruined telescope, coat soaked through, gray hair plastered to his skull, feeling every one of his 62 years pressing on the back of his neck. In his left hand he clutched the letter he had written the night Mara died. The envelope had yellowed, the ink inside had bled where tears, his own, though he would never admit it, had fallen while he wrote it in the hospital parking lot. He had meant to give it to her, then decided science didn't allow for deathbed theatrics, then decided pride was warmer than regret. So he had kept it, carried it through 3 moves, 2 divorces, 1 nervous breakdown, and every sleepless night when the sky felt too large and he felt too small. He tore the envelope now with shaking fingers. The paper inside crackled like frost. Dear Mara, if you're reading this, I was right. The universe is mechanical, indifferent, and when we die the atoms simply redistribute without memory or mercy. There is no signal that survives the grave. I needed to believe that, because believing anything else meant admitting I let you go alone. I'm sorry, I was afraid that if I touched you, if I said the things I felt, the universe would prove me wrong by taking you anyway. So I proved myself right the only way I knew how, by making sure there was nothing left to lose. Forgive me, or don't. It changes nothing in the dark between stars. Elias. He had never signed it with love. He had never dared. Lightning clawed across the sky, illuminating the observatory for 1 stark second, the telescope's lattice like the ribs of some extinct beast, cables dangling like severed tendons, monitors flickering with rows of numbers that should not exist. He had spent his life insisting those numbers were noise. Random. Meaningless. 3 hours earlier, at 20:47 precisely, the noise had begun speaking his name. He remembered the moment exactly. He had been alone, as always, no assistants, no grad students, no one willing to waste a night on a dish everyone called Thorne's Folly. The receiver hissed its usual static, and then the hiss shaped itself. A modulation, clean and deliberate, riding the 21-centimeter line like a voice on a telephone wire made of hydrogen. Elias. He had frozen, coffee spilling across the console, burning his wrist without his noticing. Then the second burst, 11 minutes and 3 seconds later. The exact interval between Mara's heartbeats on the monitor the night her aneurysm ruptured, the interval he had memorized because it was the last measurement he ever took of her that mattered. IFORGIVEYOULONGAGO. The message repeated, patient as starlight, patient as guilt. He had triple-checked the antennas, the preamps, the clock. He had run every diagnostic he could think of. The signal was narrowband, directional, coming from a point in Cygnus no catalog had ever marked. It was not a pulsar, not a quasar, not a maser, not any natural source known to physics. It was a voice, another pulse now, right on schedule. The screens glowed green with it, bathing his face in corpse light. IAMSTILLHERE. Elias made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. His knees gave out, he sank hard onto the wet floor, water soaking through his trousers, cold biting into bone. The letter floated from his fingers and drifted across the puddle like a tiny paper boat. Mara, he said, tasting iron where he had bitten his tongue. I was wrong. I built my whole life on being right and I was wrong. Thunder answered, rolling through the dome like artillery. The lights died entirely. For a moment there was only darkness and the drumming rain and the soft green pulse of the monitors spelling out the impossible. Then the emergency lamps kicked in, blood red, turning every droplet into falling rubies. Elias stayed on his knees, head bowed, while the telescope above him creaked in the wind like an old man turning in his sleep. He no longer cared if the signal was real. Real or hallucination, it had already done its work. It had reached across 23 years of silence and touched the one place he had declared untouchable. He pressed his forehead to the cold concrete and, for the first time since childhood, began to cry without shame. The rain kept falling, the signal kept speaking, and somewhere in the dark between stars, something that might once have been Mara listened, and forgave him again.